So with the midterms ahead, yesterday, we had the mail-in ballot order come down from Supreme Court. Tim Pool, he went to the darkest place possible on this order as I listened to him the last 2 days. But I do want to share what he says because he does a very good job of breaking down just how egregious this ruling was by Amy Coney Barrett, her opinion. And so listen to Tim on this.
A country that allows ballots to be casted after an election has already ended does not have elections. Elections are defined by Cambridge as a time in which votes are cast to elect or appoint an individual for the purposes of representation. If there is no time frame, and further, Barrett argues certification of these individuals may happen at the leisure of these states. This means that at any point and for any reason, the Democratic states or even red states can just have an election. Indeed. They can, I guess the only argument that Barrett makes is you can't, well, no, actually, it doesn't make sense. I think Barrett's argument is effectively you can pull and remove anybody from Congress or the president or anywhere, any point, because there is no election at all. Suffice it to say, my friends, Barrett and the majority argue there's actually no such thing as an election at all. The logic behind these arguments ends with a single conclusion. We don't have to have elections at all. We can have them whenever we want. And the end result is quite simple. The right and the left will be further torn apart. Hyperpolarization will get worse. And I think the reality here is that Barrett, being effectively the one to flip, because we knew Roberts would kind of go in this direction, she is effectively saying, please don't hurt me. Burn the country down. Kill everyone if you please, just don't hurt me. Which seems to be Barrett's through line, I suppose. Now, she's had some very strong conservative rulings, but over the past year or so, or a couple of years, she's very much been deferential. And the Supreme Court has been, well, it's been pretty weird. Trump's got some tremendous victories, don't get me wrong, but it seems that there is no congruent ideology.
He's pretty much right on everything he said. And that is the hardest part of the ruling, is that basically Coney Barrett affirmed the fact that election day doesn't really mean much. And this is what the Democrats have already been doing. They've already been treating it like that. And instead of undoing their insanity, Amy Barrett, she upheld it. Now, again, I want to make the point that this was already happening. Okay. And this is why I'm not dooming over this ruling. It sucks. I hate it. I was very hopeful it'd be overturned. I was shocked when it wasn't. This one is so freaking obvious. But again, there was a pressure campaign on Barrett and Roberts. They caved. You guys can argue where that came from. Maybe they're deep state actors, City of London. Amy Coney Barrett was swatted last month. So do the math. One way or the other, they turned on something that's very obvious, which is the fact that it says election day. But this is what's important. We've already faced this enemy. In 2024, we won with the Democrats in charge of our entire government. And they don't believe election day is a day. They do whatever they can to win. We still won. That is very important to remember, folks. Do not forget that. And so as long as we keep fighting, we will win. What they want you to be is discouraged. They want you to think this changes things. They want you to doom. But I got to tell you what, the reason they want this so bad right now is because they are losing. They are on the ropes. They are the ones dooming. And I'll show you why in a minute, despite this ruling. But first, this is why we must fight. Because if we ever let them back, it's game over.
And one more point on this, Laura. This is existential for this country. You've covered more than anybody. When the Democrats, should the Democrats regain power, it's game over. 12 more justices on SCOTUS, 2 new Democrat states. They're going to get rid of the Second Amendment. They're going to get rid of our borders. They're going to get rid of our police. They're going to get rid of ICE, Border Patrol, DHS, and they're going to elect communists, like actual communists, Laura, not even socialists, communists, who will wreck this country.
Now, I want to move back.
And one more point.
He's 100% right. That's what we face if we lose. So guess what, guys? You don't have the option of blackpilling. You don't have the option of dooming. You got to show up, and we have to fight because there is no backwards opportunity. Now, if you guys watched my last segment, I compared it to the vast odds the founding fathers faced in setting our country forward, and they won. This is nothing even close to that because we're still in power. Now, Trump is giving us the weapon of exposure. Because last week when the Democrats won and the commies took over the Democrats in New York and took over New York effectively, we got to see who they really are. And this is a good thing. It's going to help us win. Because now we're not fighting Democrats. We're actually fighting the communists. And that is a much stronger messaging, much more galvanizing for the people to go out and vote and fight. And Trump is hammering this home.
Well, I think it's a big threat to our nation, actually, because it's not socialism, it's really communism. They use the word social democrat because it sounds so nice, but it's really communism you're talking about. I think it's the biggest threat to our nation there is, maybe since our founding. That includes World War I, World War II, September 11th. It includes the Pearl Harbor attack. I think this is the biggest threat to our nation. People will smile when I say that, but the smart people are going to say, you know, he's probably right. It's basically introducing communism into the United States of America. There's never been anything so dangerous. Well, I think it's a big threat to our nation.
There's never been anything more dangerous. And he's right. You know why he's right? Because this one's coming from within. The difference, though, and the reason, Trump didn't say this is the worst scenario we've ever been in. He just said this is the biggest danger we've faced. We've been in worse scenarios. We've had options when we didn't have as much power, when we didn't have the electorate behind us. And I'm telling you, this is masterful because we are in the driver's seat this time as long as we don't take our foot off the gas. And look at how the Democrats feel right now. Remember, if you're confused about where you're at, the enemy, they will teach you. They will give you a good idea. This goes all the way back, and you can go back to the Bible where Gideon was very terrified against this enemy he was about to face. And so you know what God did? He said, go to the enemy's camp. And so he went and spied on the enemy's camp, and he overheard them saying, Gideon's armies will destroy us. And that galvanized Gideon, gave him the faith he needed to win. Well, this is our spying on the enemy's camp right now. Mark Halperin reports, I talked to quite a few moderate Democrats very concerned about the rise of socialism in their party. Here's the spiciest quote. Chevalier from New York is our David Duke. She's poisoning the possibility of a Democratic majority. That sounds like fear, guys. That sounds like they're freaking out. Here's Joe Manchin responding to the fact 62% of Democrats prefer socialism. This is Joe Manchin, moderate Democrat, former long-term senator for West Virginia.
Let me just tell you that 47% of the people identify themselves as independents. They have to take, and all of you on your shows talk about independence because independence is where you win or lose elections.
But 62% of Democrats say they prefer socialism over capitalism.
If they do, then by God, there's not a Democratic Party left. That's crazy. That is crazy.
It's true.
Do you hear what he said? If that's true, there's no Democratic Party left. And now he's saying it's true.
That is absolutely insane.
It's not a Fox poll.
If you want to ask me, well, that's another reason why I'm not registered as a Democrat. I can't put up with that crazy shit. That's nuts. And I've told him that. I said, when you believe that the government should take care of you and you don't want to get up at I was asked by Elizabeth Warren, what's happened to the West Virginia Democrats? Why we lose all the union? I said, you've lost the union workers. You lost the working people of America because they believe the Democratic Party in Washington spends more time, effort, and resources on able-bodied, capable people that don't work or won't work than those that still are working, trying to make a living. That's it in a nutshell. I can't give it to you any plainer than that.
I'll tell you, I'd feel a lot better.
Do you hear what he just said? This is a big deal.
I said, when you believe that the government should take care of you and you don't want to get up at I was asked by Elizabeth Warren, what's happened to the West Virginia Democrats? why we lose all the union. I said, you've lost the union workers, you lost the working people of America.
You lost the union workers and lost the working people of America. That's their entire base, folks, or it was. All they have left is the crazy college-educated elites, which there's not that many of them, and the people on welfare and who plan to stay on welfare forever. That's all they got. That is not a majority, folks. That is not a party. That's not going to take you anywhere. We have no idea how weak they are yet because they're still held afloat by election fraud. Thank you, Amy Coney Barrett. But that's the only reason they're even in the fight, guys. You do not grow a majority in America by becoming communist. You can get crazier. You can make your crazy people even more entrenched. You can get them to plant their feet and make your base a little stronger, but you can't grow. And that, my friends, is what they're telling us right now. They lost Manchin. He says he's not even a registered Democrat anymore. This man was a Democrat senator for years, decades. It's falling apart for them. They're losing the middle. The Democrats know this, which is why they're trying to get you to black pill right now. Because the only way they're going to win is if you don't show up. That's the dirty secret right there. If you give up, that's the only way they can win. Here's Stephen A. Smith, a Democrat himself, living in New York. Here's what he has to say about what's happening.
If you're a Democrat in the United States, particularly in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is coming. And if he's coming, what does that mean for the rest of America? Because I got questions. Where has socialism ever succeeded? If so, tell us where that is. How is it going to succeed in New York? How are you going to sell that in a capitalistic society? You might do it in New York with young voters. What about the people in the suburbs? What about them? You really, really think this kind of message is going to resonate with them? Because, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about here is this. If it resonates within the Democratic Party, but it doesn't have a snowball's chance of resonating in a general election, then you're basically handing the presidency to the GOP in 2028 as well. That's what you're doing. Because the party, the Democratic Party, will have been perceived as being fragmented. That's what I'm seeing when I see Zohran Mamdani.
He's right in his analysis of the problem. He's not right in his analysis of why. It has nothing to do with the Democrats being fragmented. It has to do with the fact they're insane. They're crazy people. But regardless, he's right. And all these guys crashing out are right. They know that this is terrible for them. Listen to your enemy, how they feel about things right now. They're not in a good place, guys. Earlier today, somebody wrote me and said, we're going to keep losing because they're so united. Does this look like unity to you guys? See, people forget that, yes, the communists are united, but we're talking about the commies, the true commies, even though in the Democratic Party, 62% of Democrats now view socialism favorably. It's much smaller when you actually get down to outright communism. We're talking about 30 to 40%. Well, 30 to 40% of Democrats, who are basically 30% of the electorate, that makes them about 5 to 10% of our nation. Let's say 8 to 10% of our nation. 8 to 10% of our nation is not going to win general elections, guys. They're losing the moderates. They are pushing away the independents. I don't care how many mail-in ballots you have. You're not getting a general election win going this direction. It'll be too big to rig by far for a long time. And yet, they're too stupid to recognize it. Here is a list of what San Diego is doing on their 4th of July celebration. And guys, tell me how many people are going to be for this. 5:45 to 6 p.m. Tribal, intimate blessing, welcoming to the land. 6 o'clock, welcoming and land acknowledgement. 6:10, tribal invocation. 6:20, national and black national anthem. This is July 4th, folks. 6:35, local tribal community stories. 7 o'clock, Latino community stories. 7:25, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander community stories. 7:50, LGBTQIA community stories. 8:25, Black and African community stories. And then we're going to do closing remarks. Nothing about America at all. Guys, San Diego is traditionally one of the most Republican cities in California. You think they're going to stand for this? You think this is going to go over well with that population? I don't think so. This is how they're going to keep losing everybody. See, many people look at the scary things that happen on the news and they say, oh my God, our country's falling apart. I see the opposite. I see that all these people who for years wanted this behind the scenes, but were slowly peeling us off, maybe by making everybody in movies and TV that was weird or trans look like the most sane people. Maybe it was by making it normal for kids in entertainment to never have parents that were married anymore. Maybe they made it look normal by everybody sleeping around, like the show Friends. Oh, that's how it should all be. We should all just be disgustingly hooking up with everybody. And that got into the culture as normalcy because it didn't look harmful. They put a big, they covered it all they covered shit in a ton of honey and fed it to us. And so we started thinking that the shit was good. But now they're not even covering it in honey. They just throw it at you. And I'm sorry, but nobody wants this. There's a very small segment of people who want this. And it's forcing the waking up. People see our country as being lost. I see our country, the bad guys, as being exposed. And that, my friends, is the beginning of the wins. I'm sorry, but historically speaking, that's how it works. Once things get exposed, it's usually the beginning of the end for them. They much would have been much smarter staying behind the scenes, but they didn't. And now it's going to come back and bite them. We have people like Dave Portnoy, sports guy, very popular show. He's a Democrat, longtime Democrat. But he's moderate. He loves capitalism. He hates what he's seeing. And somebody like this is talking about running for mayor of New York. And I'm telling you, this is somebody who could actually win. Listen to Portnoy. By the way, I'm not a fan of Portnoy, but would he be better than Mamdani? About 100,000 times, yes.
So I've always thought I would never get involved in politics. I think you can do more in the private sector. This and what is going on has actually made me pause that thought. I was saying to you, that old Plato quote, if you don't do your public service and run for office, you're doomed to be run by basically dummies. Right. And right now, I feel like that's what's happening. Now, not everyone's getting out to vote. I think what the Democrats have done is they've let the fox into the henhouse. Right. And now he's just running rampant and kicking them all out. Right. So it's a scary time. We need leaders to step up. Depending on what day you catch on me in Nantucket, when I roll out of bed, I have a nice ocean view, and it's like, why do I want to ruin my life and get involved in this mess? Because I know what comes with it. But sometimes I do feel like it's my duty. I can't turn away. I feel like I could make a change. Maybe I do run in politics. So I don't know. It depends on the day you catch me. But let me say this. I spend a lot of my day losing my mind on what's happening right now.
Listen, you know what Portnoy, like I said, I don't agree with Portnoy on the vast majority of things. I also kind of think he's a degenerate. But I will tell you this. When I was growing up in California, in the 90s, in the early 2000s. My friends who were Democrats were just like Portnoy. They were fun. They were interesting. They liked the idea of business and making money. They were not communists. We had disagreements on morality, abortion, how big the government should be. Absolutely. But it was like Americans. We loved our country. We loved what it stood for. We loved sports and movies. We found many areas of agreement. And that, my friends, is what Portnoy is. He's that old school Democrat that was like a friend of mine growing up, where we had staunch disagreements, but we could get along. And I knew my friends, if they were in charge, which they never would have been, but if they ever were, my friends would not have burnt down America. They would have turned it in a direction I would have liked, but they wouldn't have destroyed our country. Our disagreements were big, but they were not ocean wide. This is the difference, and this is what we need if we're ever going to have a real opposition party again. We need folks like him, where we could get along and disagree, but also find compromise in. And again, this is not me touting Dave Portnoy, but I'm saying that these people are starting to think about rising up in the party. Now, it might be too late, and I think it is too late to save the Democratic Party, but it shows there's hope for the future. And because if they lose guys like this, they lose their future and their present. And so that's why I show you guys these things, because the enemy is freaking out. They recognize the problems. Now, their problems are only going to get worse because Trump continues to get good news on the economy. Today, Zero Hedge reports another jolt. Job openings smash expectations despite another drop in number of hires. Look at this. 1 month after April JOLTS report came out with a whopping 9 sigma beat to estimates, when it showed in April the U.S. opened a whopping 730,000 job openings to 7.6 million and up 520,000 from a year ago, smashing estimates of 6.9 million. Moments ago, the BLS reported that in May, the number of job openings printed at 7.59 million, way ahead of the estimates of 7.29. Guys, this is huge. The job numbers are going up. What does that mean? That means companies are excited. Companies are starting to hire. They are starting to spend money again. And guess what that means? That means next comes the better jobs. Next comes the higher wages. Because as companies start to hire, they start looking for people, and there starts being competition over labor. This is the sign that the people, the employees, the working class are about to start seeing wage gains at a strong level. It's happening. It's working. And while this is happening, gas is about to tank. And I'm about to tell you this because oil is way down, and Trump is now hammering the oil companies. He posted this morning. Last night. Gasoline retailers must get their prices down immediately. They're too high considering oil is now at 68 a barrel and heading south. Retailers must react to this statement and do what they know is right. Drop your price for our great American people. There will be no gouging, totally illegal. If retailers don't do this, big problems lie ahead. Start targeting around $2.50 a gallon number. And California should stop charging such heavily taxes on their gasoline. Soon the tax will be higher than the product itself. The U.S. won't stand for it, nor will California, the people who are being abused by these ridiculous taxes in their own government. Again, Trump started doing this a couple days ago. Oil is down lower than it was the day before we attacked Iran. That's just a fact, which means the prices should reflect it, which means the gas companies are slow in adjusting their prices accordingly. Trump threatening them is going to make this happen quicker. And I'm telling you, by the midterms, low twos, most likely where we're going to be. And that, again, is going to spur the economy. Trump yesterday signed this executive order, which is going to help start making car stuff cheaper.
Mr. President, this is a presidential memo to the Environmental Protection Agency, a presidential memo supporting the freedom to fix. Americans have the freedom to fix their vehicle. President Trump insists upon it. We are not going to be going after people who are fixing their own vehicle like past administrations have. Additionally, we've been concerned, President Trump has been concerned about aftermarket parts, cheap knockoff aftermarket parts coming into the United States, harming small businesses, harming Americans. This presidential memo puts an end to it. Also, the only third-party certification for these aftermarket parts, it's CARB in California, a process that's backlogged and faulty. So we're going to break that monopoly, and no longer will CARB be the only third-party certifier for these aftermarket parts. Again, President Trump is insisting on fixing it. This presidential memo does that. President Trump was calling me up on a Saturday night when this idea first came.
So Trump already rolled back the CAFE standards, which is going to make all vehicles much cheaper, especially new ones going forward. And now he's made it cheaper to get parts. Guys, this is all going to add up. I know where we're at. I know it's not hit yet. But guys, he's only been in there, 18 months at this point, 17 months. His actual economic policies didn't get passed until last July 4th. So they haven't been in place a year. And from that point, it takes 18 to 24 months to see real results. I'm telling you, they're coming. All these policies are adding up. And eventually the dam will break. So I know it's hard to tell you to be patient, but we're starting to see the relief. And heading into the midterms is going to be a big deal. A big deal. And I'm telling you, even Rich Barris, who's gone full on grifter shill in the last few months, even he's now forced to report that Trump's getting more popular again. Trump bump. Voters overwhelmingly support Iran peace deal. Key metrics improve for GOP for first time since start of Iran war. President's job approval rating significantly improved as he pushed for and signed an overwhelmingly popular peace deal to end an overwhelmingly unpopular war with Iran. Unsurprisingly, midterm outlook improved for Republicans in June as both Democratic advantages on generic ballot and trust to handle deteriorated and fell off historic highs. Rich Barris forced to report this. You know it's bad. You know it's not heading in the right direction for these people if he's now forced to report it's getting better. He's trying to be on the right side of history no matter what. He's willing to sell his soul for that. And right now, saying the Trump team is looking much better. It's looking much better. So this is a huge tell of where they're at. Now, with all this happening leading up to the midterms, the Republicans have officially announced their convention. This is going to be the first midterm convention that I think has ever happened for the Republicans. Maybe for the Democrats too. They're going to put a lot of money in this. This is going to be a massive event all over the news. Conventions are a big deal. They bring bumps. The Democrats are too broke to do a convention. So if they put one together, it's going to be hilarious. They aren't even talking about right now. But what's interesting about it being a convention? Well, you only do conventions in presidential years because a convention is not a rally. And let's talk about the difference here and what it could mean. A political convention is a formal official meeting of a political party. Its main job is to conduct serious party business. It is nominating candidates. Well, guess what? You don't nominate candidates at a convention for House and Senate. Interesting. You only do that for presidency. Adopting a party platform. Delegates debate and vote on the official policy positions. Party rules and leadership. Interesting. Delegates, not the general public. But we don't have delegates in a midterm year. So why a convention? Is it possible that Trump is planning on weeding out some Republicans heading into the midterms? Taking them out for corruption? getting rid of them for foreign ties? I don't know. But it is very interesting. Maybe that won't happen at all. Maybe this is just going to be a rally and they're calling it a convention. Maybe. But calling it a convention does open up this possibility. Is it possible that Trump is going to be doing something that's never been done before that's going to lead to needing a convention before the midterms? I don't know. But it is really interesting, isn't it? I find this fascinating. Regardless, it's going to be must-watch TV, and I'll definitely be covering it a ton on this channel. But all of this, guys, the improving economy, the freakouts by the Democrats, I mean, all of it tells me that we're headed towards the possibility of a big win and upset in the midterms, regardless of mail-in ballots or not. Too big to rig. We did it in 24. It looks like we might be headed towards that again this year in 26. But we'll see how it happens. We'll see how it works out. I am very hopeful. And honestly, despite the terrible SCOTUS ruling yesterday on mail-in ballots, I'm actually more hopeful today than I was yesterday. And it has nothing to do with the ballots. It just has to do with the fact that I'm watching the Democrats crazy panic. And I'm watching the shills, the grifters like Rich Barris, having to report that Trump is on the comeback. That tells you all you need to know.